My name is Pierre Riucci. I'm the Executive Director of the Geneva Press Club. What are the challenges of cybersecurity in times of peace and in times of war? This is the question that our distinguished speaker will try, or actually will have to answer today. I would like to thank them very warmly. They are all here in the public. Thank them already very warmly to have accepted to participate to this debate, important debate about cybersecurity, a debate that we organize, a conference that we have organized in partnership with the Peace Cyber Institute based in Geneva, who is our partner in this event. Thank you to them also. So between 2020 and 2021, the number of attacks in cyberspace has doubled, and the numbers are still growing. According to the head of Swisscom that I just listened to the other day in Lausanne, he was saying that we have 4.7 million attacks, all types of breaches included, per month in Switzerland. That means that there are 110 infractions per minute in this country. So this is, let's say, absolutely gigantic. For our speakers who are following all this in this field and who are specialists of this field for a long time, it's probably not very surprising, but for the general public and for also even for the head of small business, medium businesses, I think it's only now that they really start to be aware that there is a huge problem in cyberspace and that they are at risk, that the challenges are very, very big. Now, as you can see in our program, we have decided to split the discussion in two: cybersecurity in times of war and cybersecurity in times of peace. So as we will see in the discussion, it's probably pretty difficult sometimes to totally separate these two types of time period. I mean, the line between peace and war is probably a bit fuzzier in the cyberspace than it's in the real world, but it will be very interesting to have these two approaches in our two panels. So, but before we start with the discussion, I would like to turn over the floor to Charlotte Lindsay. Charlotte Lindsay is the Chief Public Policy Officer of the Cyberpiece Institute. As I said, our partner in this conference. Charlotte has a 30-year top-level experience in the humanitarian sector and is specialized in all what's linked to digital transition, digital disruption, so we really bring the two worlds together. Thank you, Charlotte. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Pierre, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. When we started to organize this with the Geneva Press Club, we thought to lay on everything but not the buses. So we know that some people are still trying to get here because it's very rare that there's a strike in Switzerland, but it happens to be today. So bear with us, as there will be people that will be coming in and out as we go. So firstly, let me welcome you on behalf of the Cyberpiece Institute, and thank you all for being here and making the effort to come here despite the strike. So the subject of this afternoon's event, what are the challenges of cybersecurity in times of peace and war? It's critical for us all. So our dependency on the internet, networks, and interconnected systems, technology, and digital devices affects every aspect of our lives. And it has enormous opportunities, but it comes with threats and challenges that have and will continue to require focus by all sectors of society: state, military, corporate, academic, law enforcement, international organizations, NGOs, civil society. There is a collective responsibility to act, and it will take a multi-stakeholder approach. So we have brought together speakers here today representing all of these sectors to explore the themes related to cyber in times of peace and war in recognition of how the impact of cyber attacks have been consistently rising in terms of both severity of attacks, the harm and impact on civilians and victims, and the challenges of accountability. There needs to be a continual analysis of the use of cyber and an understanding of cyber attacks and threats from a perspective of applicable laws and norms, as well as the necessity of responsible behavior in cyberspace and accountability for attacks. And I think what is really critical for us in terms of looking at this is also to understand which of the laws and norms have been breached and how. There also needs to be a real understanding of the harms and impact of cyber attacks on people and vulnerable communities, and the need for increased collaboration and multi-stakeholder engagement to identify best practices and lessons learned, that these influence change and increase cybersecurity resilience. The Cyberpiece Institute is an independent and neutral non-governmental organization headquartered here in Geneva, Switzerland, whose mission is to reduce the harms from cyber attacks on people's lives worldwide, provide assistance to vulnerable communities, and call for responsible cyber behavior and accountability. At the core of the Institute's belief is that it's critical and in some cases vital to understand the impact of cyber attacks first and foremost in terms of societal harm. Cyber attacks directly affect people and society. And to this end, the Cyberpiece Institute has developed and launched and implemented key programs to support vulnerable communities, including the health care sector throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Humanitarian NGOs, through its Cyberpeace Builders program, to support their development of cybersecurity capabilities, and also civilians in wartime, through the aggregation of data on cyber attacks in the armed conflict since the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. In relation to this conflict, we have aggregated data on cyber attacks against critical infrastructure, essential for the survival of the civilian population and civilian objects, which are all protected under international humanitarian law. To date, data has been monitored and analyzed on over 500 cyber attacks and operations across 22 sectors and 33 different countries, and carried out by 58 different threat actors. So the unique characteristics of cyberspace has enormous implications for international security, laws, and norms, and fundamentally for humanity. Our humanity is driven by very human responses, the avoidance of remoteness and the ethics of everyday life. It's about preserving what is humanly important. And in the words of philosopher Jonathan Glover, it makes vivid the victims and the human reality of what will be done to them. We need reminders of humanity today and a determination to resist the effects of distance, dehumanizing people, and to ensure a focus on morality and knowing and guarding against the way this fails. So today's warfare is changing in terms of scale, stakes, space, and technology, with new doctrines, battle spaces, and new weapons, which will require military and humanitarian restraint. At a time of widening geopolitical divides in the world, it's important to reaffirm the humanitarian limits to the use of cyber. So this event today aims to focus on actions that need to be taken to deal with threats in cyberspace today and in the future. We're grateful for the participation of excellent speakers who are really recognized experts in their domain, from the provision of a keynote speech from NATO and 2 panels which will look at the different dimensions of the challenge of cyber. The first, the unique characteristics of cyberspace and how that impacts the responsibility for protecting people against cyber attacks in peacetime, particularly the role of the state and the private sector. And the second panel, what are the lessons that we can learn from war and the use of cyber in the 21st century? We also recognize that the expertise in these domains is also sitting with you, the audience. And we encourage you to be active participants in this event and take the opportunity to pose questions to panelists. This opportunity will be facilitated by our moderator for each panel, Pierre, and Imogen Fuchs, who is somewhere in the audience here, and who you will know or recognize from her role at the BBC. So we are delighted today to partner with the Geneva Press Club for this event, and thank you again for your attendance this afternoon. And I would now like to invite